It was a hot summer afternoon in Austin, Texas, when Emily stepped off the plane. The humid heat enveloped her as soon as she exited the airport, but she felt strangely at peace. After 4 years living in Brussels, Emily was finally returning to her homeland. Her career had taken off after her company sent her to Belgium, where she managed to climb the ranks and grow in ways she had never imagined. During her time in Europe, Emily dedicated herself to work and made close friends, but she could never stop thinking about her sister, Claire. The two had been inseparable as children, but as they grew older, their relationship became increasingly difficult. Claire had always held a sort of resentment toward Emily. It was a jealousy that no one really understood, as they had always had similar opportunities. But Claire was different. She enjoyed attention, status, and often seemed to compete over everything, even Emily's boyfriends. Emily still remembered an incident in their teenage years when Claire flirted with one of her first boyfriends. Although nothing had happened, the trust between them was never the same. Days after her return, Emily decided to gather the family for a dinner. "Emily, so good to have you back," Claire exclaimed, hugging her sister enthusiastically. "We missed you so much." "I missed you too, Claire. It feels like much more than 4 years," Emily smiled, trying to gauge if her sister had changed during her absence. During dinner, Emily talked about the challenges of working in Brussels, the places she visited, and how grateful she felt for the opportunity to advance in her career. Claire listened attentively, but Emily noticed a subtle glint in her sister's eyes, as if there was something she wanted to say. "So what's next?" Claire asked, leaning forward. "I'm still deciding," Emily replied. "I think I might stay here for a while and see where it leads me." It was around this time that Emily met Andrew, a charming, successful, and charismatic man. He was everything she was looking for: attentive, intelligent, and apparently honest. They met at a networking event, where the conversation flowed so naturally that Emily felt as if she had known him for years. Before long, they were seeing each other regularly, and she found herself falling more and more in love. A few weeks later, Emily brought Andrew to a family dinner so he could meet everyone. "This is Andrew," Emily introduced him with a shy smile. "I think everyone will like him." Claire gave a polite smile, which was surprising to Emily, who had expected some innuendo or sarcastic joke. Her sister's behavior was more courteous than ever, which, though strange, brought Emily a sense of relief. "Well, Andrew, I hope you treat my sister right," Claire said, raising a glass of wine with a smile. "She deserves someone who values her." Emily exchanged a look with Andrew, who returned it with a gentle smile. This seemed to be a new Claire, apparently more mature. The following days were harmonious, and Emily began to believe that the phase of rivalry with her sister was finally over. However, a few weeks later, Emily noticed something odd on Andrew's phone. He was in the shower and his phone vibrated on the bedside table next to the bed. Emily, distracted, saw the contact name of the person who had sent the message: electrician. She found it curious that Andrew would have an electrician's number at the top of his conversations. Intrigued, she opened the message. "Everything is ready for tomorrow. She doesn't suspect a thing," read the message. Emily felt her heart race. She knew she shouldn't pry, but curiosity and unease overwhelmed her. Scrolling through the messages, she noticed something that left her in shock. The electrician's number ended with familiar digits. They were the same as her sister Claire's. Feeling a wave of panic, Emily read through the exchanged messages between them. Emily tried to stay calm as she read the messages. As she continued, the exchanges between Andrew and Claire grew increasingly disturbing. "She doesn't suspect a thing," Claire had written. Andrew replied, "Great. As soon as she closes the deal with the investors, we can transfer the money and disappear." A chill ran down Emily's spine. It felt like a nightmare, but it was all too real. Her own sister was conspiring against her, and the man she loved was involved. Suddenly, Andrew's recent distant behavior and Claire's strange respect made sense. That night, while Andrew slept, Emily tried to process what to do. The next morning, she decided to confront her sister. Instead of a direct confrontation, she resolved to test Claire, probing to see how far she would go with the lie. Emily met Claire at a cafe downtown. "Claire," Emily began, trying to keep her voice steady, "I've been thinking about expanding my investments. I recently closed a good deal and the returns look promising." Claire's eyes widened, but she quickly masked it, smiling warmly. "That's wonderful, Emily. I'm so happy for you. Her voice sounded overly sweet, almost theatrical. "Thank you," Emily replied, watching her sister closely. "I was thinking about asking Andrew for advice, but I wanted to hear what you thought first." Claire hesitated for a moment as if choosing her words. "Well, Andrew is very good with finances. He could definitely help." Emily's stomach churned. She smiled at Claire, but her mind was already working on a plan to expose them both. That night she decided to put her plan into action. She invited Andrew over for dinner at her place, maintaining her usual tone and trying to act naturally. During dinner she dropped a small bait. "Earlier today, I talked to Claire about that project I'm working on," Emily said casually. "She seemed interested in how I'm investing." Andrew watched her for a moment and she saw a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. He quickly recovered his smile and replied, "That's great, sweetheart. You two could even work together, who knows?" Emily pretended to agree, but inside she was tense. She knew she needed more evidence to expose the pair once and for all. The next day she hired a private investigator to help her track Andrew and Claire's activities. With evidence in hand she finally confronted them. "I know everything," Emily declared firmly, facing them in her living room. "I know about your plan to steal my money." Andrew tried to defend himself, laughing nervously. "What are you talking about, Emily? This is ridiculous." "Ridiculous?" Emily threw her phone on the table, displaying the messages exchanged between him and Claire. "Ridiculous is my own sister and the man I loved planning to deceive me and take everything I've worked for." Claire tried to defend herself, but the guilt was clear in her eyes. "Emily, you have to understand. I've always been pushed aside. Everyone always preferred you. They preferred me because I was honest and worked for what I wanted," Emily replied, her voice now filled with both anger and sadness. "I would have shared everything with you, Claire, because I loved you. But now, you've betrayed me in a way I will never forget." Andrew tried to negotiate, shifting his tone. "Emily, we can work this out. It was a mistake that doesn't have to go any further." But Emily was resolute. She had enough proof and had already informed her lawyer about the scheme. Claire and Andrew, with no options left, were faced not only with the reality of their betrayal but also with the legal consequences of their actions. By the end of the day, as Emily sat alone in her living room, she felt the weight of the betrayal and the loss. She had never imagined her own sister could go so far out of jealousy and greed. Though hurt, she resolved to start anew, certain that this time, she had only those who truly loved her by her side.